Hello. I'm just doing this just for maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. It's a very short topic. It's my top 10 favorite films of all time, top 10 tentative top favorite films of all time, because some of these films I'm going to show you, those directors have directed other movies that could take that place, they're just as good. So in a future video, I think I'll do it for another streaming video. I'll show all my other favorite movies, and maybe I have a lot of favorite movies. It's like 40, 50 favorite movies or something. I know I'm on right now. It's 10:15 Eastern Standard Time, so I'm not quite sure if anybody's watching. I don't know if I can tell by looking. Uh, Anyways, let's get to it. So first off, we have a Martin Scorsese film, or Scorsese rather. This is signed by Paul Schrader, who wrote the screenplay. Taxi Driver. I've bought this film like 4 times, double dipped. First time I got it, it was on videotape, and it was given to me by a friend of mine. I really liked it. But it wasn't. I think it was in pan and scan. It wasn't in widescreen. So I bought it again on VHS back in the '90s. I think it was the '90s, and um, uh, I think it was in widescreen then, and it also had some special features. So then again, I bought it on DVD, and it had the same special features as the video cassette did, but this one has 2 commentaries on it. One by Paul Schrader, the screenwriter of the film, and one by Professor Robert Kolker. And I think the commentaries are pretty good. The professor one I think was pretty good, but I can't remember. I haven't listened to it in a long time. But it's got Martin Scorsese on Taxi Driver, producing Taxi Driver, God's Lonely Man, writer Paul Schrader, and Professor Robert Kolker discuss the loneliness themes as seen in the film. Schrader also talks about what circumstances led to writing the screenplay, influence and appreciation. Robert De Niro, Oliver Stone, Roger Corman, and others paid tribute to Scorsese in the film. Taxi Driver stories, making a documentary, Travis's New York, the changes of New York from '75 to today. So it shows, it'll show footage from the film of a location in New York City, and then it'll show you, like, if you use a remote, it'll show you what it looks like today. And storyboard to film comparisons with Martin Scorsese introduction, and the storyboards are done by Scorsese. They're not like he's not Scorsese didn't. They're like stick figures, and they're not. He's not like a great artist, as far as drawing or whatever. But that's besides the point. It's just to get the effect he wanted. Animated photo galleries in the original screenplay, which I think you have to access through a computer. Oh, hello, Teresa. Anyways, so it's got this slip thing on it right here, like a plastic slip, and there's the credits, the title, those credits that they have on things. So you got, of course, Travis Bickle, De Niro holding the, I think that's a Magnum 44 there. Maybe this way. And of course, that's Paul Schrader's autograph right there. In another video, I'm going to show probably Raging Bull and Last Temptation of Christ. Those are 2 of my other favorite Scorsese films. They probably could be just as good, but maybe Taxi Driver is my personal favorite of Scorsese's. And then you got De Niro with his mohawk, and you got what's her name? Jodie Foster. She was like 15 or something when this film was made. Uh, and you got that's a nice. It's very well designed. I know the Blu-ray must look fantastic. I've seen it twice in the theaters when they were. I think the first time I saw it. Oh, you know what? I think the first time I saw it in the theater, they show at the multiplex. They show classic movies, like The Godfather 2. They show, MASH. I don't like MASH. My friend saw MASH, but I don't know. 10 Commandments, Rear Window. What else have they shown at the multiplex? Scarface, Pacino Scarface. They've shown some Hollywood films over the past, and Taxi Driver was one of them. They showed them twice. I think one was a Blu-ray release, and the other one was before they showed the film. They showed footage from the Tribeca Film Festival, which I've been to maybe like 10 times or something, but I wasn't there for this one, and I don't know if I could have gotten a ticket to get in anyways. But anyways, they showed the Q&A with the cast and crew before they showed the movie. So that's Taxi Driver for you. The next film, number 9, is Apocalypse Now. I've had this on video cassette, and then I got it on DVD. By the way, that previous thing was a DVD. Am I showing this right? Yeah. So this is called The Complete Dossier. It is more than one version of the movie. It is the original Apocalypse Now, and then it has the redo. I've never watched a redo. It has some special features on here. There's Brando. It's got a nice embossed Apocalypse Now there, right there, like that, and some nice picture there. This mission does not exist, nor will it ever exist. I don't know if Harrison Ford said that. It's got special features. Watch a film with Francis Coppola. Let's see. Well, there's a lot of text here, and I don't know if I want to read it all. It'd take too long, I think. But then it has The Hollow Men. 17 minutes. Is a complete reading of T.S. Eliot's 1925 poem by Colonel Kurtz, Marlon Brando. It's got Monkey Sampan, that's 3 minutes, and it's an unusual lost scene from the original shooting. It's got additional scenes, it's 26 minutes. 12 never-before seen sequences. It's got the AV Club, that's pretty cool, showing a detailed look. It gets into things like the birth of 5.1 sound. That's 6 minutes long, which I think when Apocalypse Now first came out in the movie theaters. Oh, hey, Sasha. Yeah. Okay. And hey, everyone else. When Apocalypse Now first came out in the theaters, and maybe you know this, Sasha, but the way the sound was designed in the theater was kind of revolutionary, because like early 70s movies had this like mono sound, and this was like a revolutionary film. Well, revolutionary for more than one reason, but one of the reasons was how the sound was like a stereotype sound. I don't know about Star Wars, what the case was there. This is 79 when this film came out. It's got ghost helicopter flyover, that's 4 minutes. An audio demonstration of the 3-dimensional stereo surround effects used in the film. The synthesizer soundtrack by Bob Moog. It's spelled M-O-O-G, but it's pronounced Moog, I think. And the Moog synthesizer was used in some of the Kubrick movies like Clockwork Orange and The Shining by a person named Wendy Carlos, I believe. Yeah, so an in-depth article by the late inventor of the Moog synthesizer and renowned electronic music pioneer from the January 1980 issue of Contemporary Keyboard magazine that spotlights Apocalypse Now's groundbreaking Oscar-nominated synthesized score, technical facts, 6 of the most frequently asked questions about the film with answers. And then it has here, it says, never get out of the boat. Absolutely goddamn right, unless, I think it says further here, unless you're going all the way. So, we just, so, there's the disc right there. You have to, halfway through the movie, you have to, you have to put the next disc in. But as far as buying the Blu-ray, I'm not buying the Blu-ray because I'll just be double dipping again, and I don't want to do that. I'm just trying to put these discs back in the cases. Okay, so that's Apocalypse Now. Oh, wait a minute. There's more. This too has post-production. And this film took a long time with the post-production. I think they spent over a year. I think it's kind of unusual the amount of time they spent in post-production. I mean, they had more freedom than most productions did then, now, and probably before that. So that's one thing. You get the music of Apocalypse Now. I should turn this on so I can read it better. That's 15 minutes. You got a million feet of film. The editing of Apocalypse Now, 18 minutes. The editor of Apocalypse Now, I saw him at the Tribeca Film Festival promoting Cold Mountain. Cold Mountain I don't really like, but if you buy the DVD of the making of Cold Mountain, the behind the scenes stuff is fascinating. That's worth it for that alone. Let's see. And he had a book that he was selling of Cold Mountain called Behind the Scene, spelled SEEN. So he signed that for me, and I had his book in the blink of an eye, and he signed that for me as well. Heard any good movies lately? That's 15 minutes. That's a sound design of Apocalypse Now, and then you got the final mix, which is 3 minutes, and then you got Apocalypse Now and Then and Now, 4 minutes, which is Cannes, I guess, showing it in Cannes. PBR Street Gang, 4 minutes. What is this about here? I guess it's talking about the actors. I really haven't delved into this DVD I've bought. It sort of sat on the shelf, but it's one of my favorite movies, so that's why it's included here. The color palette of Apocalypse Now, 4 minutes. The cinematography was done by Vittorio Storaro, who's probably the best, or not the best. He's one of the best cinematographers, I think, in the modern day of cinematographers go. He's done some Bertolucci movies, which are in my top favorite movies. I like I said, I have these top 10 movies, but they can also, the same directors or other directors that are not in this top 10 can replace those in this top 10. So technically I really have more like 40, 50 favorite films of all time or something like that. So anyways, and then redo marker. I don't know what that is exactly. Anyways, that's Apocalypse Now. And in addition, maybe it's my favorite documentary of all time. It's definitely one of my favorite documentaries. It's Hearts of Darkness. Sorry, I'm not looking at the chat. I'm just trying to talk about the okay. I'll have to. This is my first time doing a stream, so I'm trying to get adjusted to this. Doing this. This is maybe this is my favorite documentary. Definitely one of my favorites. Hearts of Darkness, the filmmaker's Apocalypse. If you want to know how a film is made, like even a film like Apocalypse Now, where you think, you know, like if you were on the set of Apocalypse Now, you say, "Oh, this film is doomed; it's never going to make it." But it shows his fortitude and his determination to make this film happen, and that's really admirable, I think. So, if you're making a movie and you think, you know, your low budget movie has problems, then watch this and maybe you'll have some perspective as to making movies. So, and it has a commentary. And again, I haven't listened to the commentary. I had the video cassette and I used to watch it a lot. And then it has a coda 30 years later. It is a documentary on a newer film he did called Youth Without Youth, which I don't have. Some people say it was better than that. Yeah, well, at least, Jasso, it's at least, well, it's a documentary and that's a feature. So for me, it's separate matter, maybe. So that's number 9. Number 8, and I want to get this on Criterion when it comes out in February, but right now I have it on a box set. It's this Ingmar Bergman MGM UA box set. And this is number 8 of favorite films of all time. Shame, with Lee Allman right there, Max von Sydow, and what's his name? Gunnar Bjornstrand. And this is a pretty depressing movie, but I think a pretty important film because it shows like what commonplace people will do in the wake of horrible things that are happening around them. You know, that they'll become completely different people in the middle of a war. And yeah, so it's a pretty depressing movie. But I think, you know, with foreign films, sometimes you see something that's maybe depressing but interesting. You know, like Hollywood films maybe like earlier Hollywood films like 60s, 70s. You know, like Moonlight, Midnight Cowboy. Some of the other older Hollywood movies back in those days might have had unhappy endings. But like today's films, maybe some of them have unhappy endings, but you know, foreign films seem to be more like embracing reality rather than, you know, good-looking people and explosions and cars speeding down the road and car chases and all that stuff, which is kind of, you know, has its place. But this is like what happens to like everyday normal people, and what, you know, like Tokyo Story, talking about elderly parents and how what their reality is, you know, in their day-to-day lives, you know. So that's so their country gets invaded and they have to adjust, you know. Number 7, I have other favorite Hitchcocks as well. Bergman, I have other favorites. Coppola, yeah, The Conversation is another one of my favorites of his. The Godfathers I like. I think they're important films, but I don't think they're up to Apocalypse Now. But I'm not saying The Godfather is not a great film, because it is, and number two as well. Anyways, number seven, Vertigo by Hitchcock with James Stewart there. Angel, Sasha. I know that you're saying the Blu-ray has the correct aspect ratio. Yeah, I just can't double dip and double dip and double dip. I'm fine with it the way it is. This Vertigo has a commentary by associate producer Herbert Coleman. I think he went and scouted locations for Hitchcock, according to what I remember from this. And he's talking with the restoration team, which is Robert A. Harris and James C. Katz. So, yeah, really good movie. It's probably my favorite film. It's a romance movie. And I think it's kind of different than other Hitchcock films because it's kind of ambiguous, because, Scorsese said it's a film about obsession. I don't really want to say too much about it. I guess I don't really want to say too much about any of these movies because, maybe I'd spoil it for you. But he falls in love with this woman and something happens to their relationship and he's got to remedy that solution. I guess it's the way to put it. So that's number seven. This video might be kind of fast. I'm just getting used to this streaming process, so now we're at number six. Sorry if I can't, I don't know how to, what do you call it? Moderate the chat. I'm just getting used to all this. So, there's a second audio commentary with Friedkin on the Vertigo Blu-ray. Yeah, maybe you'd have to borrow it, Sasha, at the library if they have it, I just can't double dip, I bought a whole bunch of Criterions recently and they're, I think I don't have them. I don't have any versions of them. I don't think I do. Well, shame I do, but I don't think I have any of those films that I bought before. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I'd have to look at them, and they're over on the table over there. Anyways, number six is Patton with George C. Scott, Carl Malden. I don't think I've watched this DVD. I used a friend of mine made a tape for me of it, and it had terrible audio on it. I think I don't know if he recorded it off of the TV or if he recorded it off a tape or something. I guess this gives you a history of General Patton's life, maybe, or the war, World War II. But I love this movie. The speech at the start, like I can quote, no American has lost a war, or how does it go? The very thought of losing is hateful to Americans. That's why Americans have never lost and will never lose a war. 30 years from now, when you're sitting by your fireside with your grandson on your knee and he asks you, what did you do in the Great World War II? Well, you won't have to say, well, I shoveled S in Louisiana. The Nazis are the enemy. Wade into them, spill their blood, shoot them in the belly. When you put your hand on a bunch of goo that a moment before was your best friend's face, you'll know what to do. That's the stuff that I really, that speech is fantastic. I love that speech. And the rest of the film is great too. Like at the start where some Nazis in planes are flying over this town in Africa, and like everybody's ducking, and he gets out his gun and he starts shooting it at them. And he's saying like, "Oh, I'd give awards to those two guys for being so brave." And then he goes around the the military station there, and he says, "Kindly tell these two guys that breakfast was 2 hours ago." And then the doctor says, "Well, how can I put a stethoscope or whatever that is in his ears with a helmet on?" And he says, "Drill 2 holes in your helmet." So then later on, when this tank gets stuck in the mud, he's like determined to march through Germany. It's a brilliant movie. I love this movie, and it's directed by Franklin Schaffner, who directed Planet of the Apes, which is a good movie. It might be another one of my favorite films as well. George C. Scott won an Oscar for this film, but he didn't accept it. And what year was this? 1972, maybe? I don't know if I can find the date on this. Anyways, and like 2 years before that, I think it was 2 years before, Godfather came out, and Marlon Brando didn't accept his Oscar as well. So, and that's a great performance by Marlon Brando. I'm trying not to knock The Godfather. It's a great movie. Just not Coppola's greatest film. It is a great movie. It's a 4 or 5 star film. It's an excellent film. No doubt about it. So here's number 5. It's Fellini. I have other Fellini favorites, but this is maybe my personal favorite of Fellini's, La Dolce Vita. You got Marcello Mastroianni there as Marcello Robini, who's a journalist. And you got Anita Ekberg there. She plays a Swedish actress, but she sounds American. I think she's an American. I think she lived the rest of her life in Italy. This is a great Criterion Blu-ray. You got the press. They're crowding up in front of the plane that she's getting out of when she lands in Rome. I just love this movie. How he's like, he's flirting with all these women, and he's a writer, and he's depressed, and I used to not be able to sleep right away, and so I can sort of relate to this film in a way, not totally. Like I can relate to The Taxi Driver, but I'm not a homicidal killer, Just Travis Bickle's a lonely person, so that's one side. The other side is just text. And I think people have mentioned on here, but like Sasha, I think has mentioned, and others too. Maybe Dina DVD, like I think Dina the DVD has that. What do you call it? The booklets are a much better idea than these pamphlets, which I totally agree with. I think you said that, Sasha. This is like almost 3 hours long, but never boring. And it's like I just like the fact that he's like sleeping every night with a different woman. I don't know if that's a great quality to have, but he's flirtatious. I just like it. It's a really good movie, and he I guess he gives into his. Well, I don't want to say anything. It's a really good movie. Really good movie. That's number 5. So number 4. I like a lot of Kurosawa stuff, but this is probably my personal favorite, and it's Throne of Blood, based on Macbeth, with Toshiro Mifune. And Takashi Shimura, who played the lead in Ikiru, is he makes a brief appearance in this movie. This is like Criterion here, like the other one, like La Dolce Vita. This is a combo Blu-ray DVD. I think it was one of my first Blu-rays that I ever bought a few years back. I think I bought this in 2014, maybe. Yeah. Oh yeah, and you've got Suzu Yamada there. She makes a really good performance as like the Lady Macbeth character. You know the story of Macbeth, that well, instead of three witches, it's one witch, and she says, or he says, the witch is sort of what would you call it? Ambiguous kind of character that you can't tell if it's a male or a female. But you know, he starts hallucinating, like in this scene right here, about one of his friends. It's got this great song at the start and the end of the film, you know, about ambition and how it can lead to, you know, vanity and giving into like trying to be powerful, and how that can defeat you in the end, you know. So there he is. I think that's him, in his samurai garb. And you got the Blu-rays and the Blu-ray and the DVD. I think this is a good transfer. I don't know if you have Throne of Blood, Sasha. And like in a future video, when I show my other favorite movies, oh, there's nothing there really. Nothing there. Those are the Blu-rays and DVD. So, but he gets power hungry, and he thinks he can never be defeated because of the witch telling him. The witch says, as long as the forest doesn't move, you will be undefeated. Oh, I see, Sasha. Yeah, I have some of Kurosawa's, but not all of them. A fair amount of Kurosawa's. Number 3 is this huge box set. I've showed this before. This is my favorite David Lean. I like Dr. Zhivago a lot. Maybe I put Bridge of on the River Kwai as well as one of my favorites, along with Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia. But Lawrence of Arabia is one of my favorites. Beautiful cinematography, excellent use of sound, excellent music. Just the class act. I've shown this before, so I'll just briefly show all this. Everything's falling out here. So you got the book here, and you got two mentions in here. Well, you got Spielberg at the start here. Spielberg with a quote there, with a paragraph there. And I think Scorsese's in the back. He has a quote back there. I've only watched the movie, I think, on this. I don't think I've watched the special features. I have had this on DVD before. And it had some special features, but it had more on this. And this was a film I think you need to see on Blu-ray. The cinematography is just unbelievable in this movie, and I think it's worth it to have this on Blu-ray. This really is a film to have on Blu-ray, and in this edition, it's I think it makes it worth owning. So you get in this box, well, in this case, you get the soundtrack, you get, there's the movie, I think. The movie, I think, is on one disc, if I remember. Disc 2 and disc 3, I'm pretty sure, are the bonus features. And then I'll put this piece of paper back in the. Sorry, I can't regulate the chat. I don't know how to do it yet. Maybe somebody will tell me later on in the future. My apologies for not being involved with the chat. I'm just learning the ropes now. This is my first stream, so you get this. Maybe I'll never take it out of the plastic. I think I did take it out of the plastic at one point, but it's a film frame. Let me try to angle that correctly. Let me see. Can you see that? It's like a film frame from the film. I think the film was shot 65 millimeter, or was it 70 millimeter? I can't remember exactly. Maybe you know, Sasha. I think it was 70. And you got the plastic. I guess Sasha, you said you threw away the plastic. I think that's what you said in the comments. Oh, 70, okay. And I think the cinematographer, Freddie Young, maybe? Or Freddie Young, I think. So now number 2. It was like number 1 for a while, but it's certainly one of the greatest films. This director's directed other great movies. Freddie Young, yeah. This director's directed other great movies. Some of them are kind of interesting. He had a hard time financing films after he made this very first film that he made. But don't just watch this film if you're going to watch films of his. Watch his other movies because, it's worth it, I think. And if you just watch this, I think you're limiting yourself. Even though I haven't watched all of the films that I own of his yet, I've watched some of them. But I think you're sort of changing yourself if you only watch this one. But it's certainly a good film to see. And, of course, that's Citizen Kane by Orson Welles, called the greatest film of all time, like in Sight and Sound, which is a British film magazine. Every 10 years, they do top 10 films of all time. And first it was Potemkin that was in the Battleship Potemkin by Eisenstein, which I have, which was number 1 for a few decades, I mean, because they do it every 10 years. And then I think it was maybe 1 decade or 2 decades. It was Strada, maybe, or was it Bicycle Thieves, or both of those? And then the Europeans, because it bombed at the box office, because of the bad press it got, the Europeans sort of discovered it, if you will, like the French with Cahiers de Cinema, which is a film journalism magazine. And the person that worked, two of the people that worked at two of the there was more than one of these writers at Cahiers de Cinema, however you pronounce it. Francois Truffaut and Jean-Luc Godard, who made films after they were film critics. And there are other members. There were other people that worked for Cahiers de Cinema that also became filmmakers, I believe. Like, I think I'm getting this right. Claude Chabrol, Eric Romer. I don't know about what's his name. The guy did Mr. Hulat. What's his name? Jacques Tati. I don't know if Jacques Tati wrote for Cahiers de Cinema. Maybe he was older than they were. Another one of my favorite French directors, which I'll probably include in my, other favorites of films in another stream or video, is Jean-Pierre Melville, who I think had a big impact on the new wave French filmmakers. So, anyways, so after for a few decades or so of like La Strada or Bicycle Thieves, I think it was La Strada, Citizen Kane became the favorite. Now, a few years back, and maybe another decade behind that. Well, oh, you know what? No, I'm wrong. This past Sight and Sound, Vertigo is rated as the #1 movie of all time. The next 10 years back, it was 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, and that, of course, brings me to #1, my favorite director of all time, Stanley Kubrick. And probably, if I have to choose my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie, and most of Stanley Kubrick's films are some of my favorites of all time. There are a few that I think are okay or good or decent or good, and then there's, well, Full Metal Jacket. I like the starting, I like the ending, but the middle is a kind of a mess. Maybe he intentionally meant it to be that way. I don't know, but anyways, this is 2001: A Space Odyssey. Sasha, you probably say that's probably a better version of this than this one I have right here. This is in the Kubrick box set. It's signed by, well, it's over in the bookshelf over there, but it's signed by Tom Cruise and Matthew Modine of Full Metal Jacket. But yeah, so that's #1. Basically because, technically there was nothing like it before that, even though, Star Wars was a big milestone in special effects history. And I don't know if I'm sounding weird on this, but like the literal use of space and time, like space in a frame, and how it, like the metaphor for it, like in actual space, like framing space, I guess, and the time, because films rely on time, running length, and 2001 is a film that takes place over many thousands of years, and of course the ending. I've read the book, and there's an explanation as to what's happening, but I think even if you don't understand the ending, it doesn't matter, because at a certain point you just accept it, and just accept it as an experience. Because like the earlier part of the film, it has a point. They're going to Jupiter for a reason, but after that, I think you got to sort of abandon what's happening and all that, and just accept it and immerse yourself in the movie. Because another one of my favorite films of all time is Eraserhead, and that's Kubrick's favorite film. And if you watch that film, I don't know if it totally makes any sense, entirely. And it doesn't have to, because it justifies itself in its in its weirdness, So, anyways, that does it. So #1, you got 2001: Space Odyssey. You got #2, Citizen Kane. #3, Lawrence of Arabia. #4, Throne of Blood. #5, La Dolce Vita. #6, Patton. #7, Vertigo. #8, The Shame, which will be coming out on Blu-ray on Criterion in February. Criterion does flash sales like twice a year. I think usually it's February, October. Just sign up on their email list, and when they have a flash sale, it's only for 24 hours, and it's usually like from, maybe it's 12 noon, maybe it's a total, I think it's a total of 24 hours. So, but you have to buy your Criterion within that amount of time, or otherwise you're not going to get 50% off. So, just get on their email list so that when those sales happen, you're available to take advantage of the sales. Number 9, Apocalypse Now, with a great documentary of Hearts of Darkness. And last off, we got Martin Scorsese's with Robert De Niro's great portrayal, Travis Bickle, Taxi Driver. So I think that sums it up. That's 45 minutes for me. So sorry if I can't regulate the chat. I just don't know. I don't know how to do it. I guess that's it. Oh yeah, Sasha. Yeah, you bought the Ingmar Bergman box set, and Shame is in that box set. Now, you know what? Criterion Collection. I subscribe to their channel on YouTube, and they have I think it's featured on the Blu-ray box set. They have a feature on Lee Waldman and Bibi Anderson. Oh no, that's Persona I'm thinking of. What I'm trying to say is maybe something on the Shame that's on the Blu-ray box set of the Bergman box set is not featured on the actual single edition of the Shame Blu-ray coming out in February. I don't know if all the special features are the same, so you have to take that into consideration. Yeah, so that does it. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate everybody coming along. I'm sorry if I didn't really read the chat too much. I was, busy with showing you my movies. Yeah. So, anyways, I don't know how to end exactly on a graceful note. I'll just end right now. I'll see you in the future streams, on other people's streams or whatever, and chats, and I'll try and do another one of these streams at some point soon. I guess. Also, I'm going to show my the Blu-rays and the DVD that I picked up recently. I'm just waiting for one more to get in the mail before I show my pickups. That might be a video, might not be a stream. I just wanted to try a stream because I've never tried a stream before. So, and Jay showed me yesterday how to do it. So, all right. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care, and hope to see you in the relatively soon future. Bye.